In the next 15 minutes, I'm going to explain every single reason why the 2026 FIFA World Cup is not just another tournament. This is the video that covers everything: the size, the stakes, the stories, the money, and the moments that are already written into history before a single ball is kicked. By the time this video ends, you will understand exactly why billions of people around the world believe this is the most important sporting event ever organized. You won't need to look anywhere else. Let's start. Here's the thing most people don't realize. The World Cup isn't just a football tournament. It's the single most watched event in human history, bigger than the Olympics, bigger than the Super Bowl, bigger than anything else you can name. The 2022 World Cup in Qatar drew over 1.5 billion viewers for the final alone. 1.5 billion people watching the same moment at the same time. That's 1 in every 5 humans alive on this planet. And now, in 2026, everything is bigger. The number of teams is bigger. The host countries are bigger. The prize money is bigger. The rivalries are bigger. If you've ever wanted to understand why the world stops every 4 years, or why grown adults cry in the streets over a sport, this video is your answer. Because the 2026 World Cup isn't just an event. It's a cultural earthquake, and it hasn't even started yet. The first reason this World Cup is historic, it is simply the largest one ever built. For the first time in history, the World Cup features 48 teams instead of 32. That is a 50% increase. That means more countries, more stories, more upsets, and more moments that nobody saw coming. For context, in 1998, the tournament expanded from 24 to 32 teams. That expansion gave the world France's legendary run on home soil and a final watched by 800 million people. The jump to 48 in 2026 is even bigger. More teams means more qualifying nations that have never been here before. It means smaller footballing cultures finally getting their shot on the world's biggest stage. It means that for the first time, countries from the Caribbean, Central Africa, and Southeast Asia will compete alongside Brazil, Germany, and Spain. The sheer diversity of this tournament has never existed before in football history. And this isn't just good for sentiment, it's good for football. Historically, tournament expansion has produced some of the most shocking results in World Cup history. More teams means more chaos. More chaos means more moments that make people stop what they're doing and stare at a screen. The 2026 World Cup was designed almost structurally to produce miracles. But the size of the teams isn't even the most unusual thing about 2026. The host situation is unlike anything football has ever seen. 3 countries are co-hosting this World Cup: the United States, Canada, and Mexico. 3 separate nations, 3 separate governments, 3 separate cultures, all united under one tournament. This has never happened before in the history of the World Cup. Ever. The United States is hosting the majority of the matches, with 11 cities spread across the country, from New York to Los Angeles, from Dallas to Miami. Canada brings Vancouver and Toronto. Mexico adds Guadalajara and Mexico City. In total, 16 host cities across 3 time zones and thousands of miles. Fans following their team across the tournament could travel more distance than some nations are wide. But here's the number that puts it all in perspective. The 2026 World Cup final will be played at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey, just outside New York City. MetLife has a capacity of 82,500 seats. For comparison, the 2022 final in Lusail Stadium held 88,966. These are the largest World Cup finals audiences in modern history. And unlike Qatar, where the extreme heat forced night kickoffs for most matches, the 2026 summer schedule in North America means matches will be played in front of packed stadiums in full daylight at peak energy. The atmosphere is going to be unlike anything we've seen. Now, bigger stadiums and more teams only matter if the football itself is worth watching. And this is where 2026 gets dangerous. The generation of players competing in this tournament is the most talented in the sport's history, and most of them are at the absolute peak of their careers. Let's talk about that for a second. Kylian Mbappé will be 27 years old at the 2026 World Cup. That is the perfect age for a forward, experienced enough to handle the pressure, young enough to still be explosive. He reached the World Cup final in 2022 and scored a hat trick in the last 15 minutes trying to pull off the greatest comeback in the tournament's history. He didn't win that day. 2026 is almost certainly his best and possibly last chance at the one title that would define his legacy. Erling Haaland will be 25. Vinicius Jr. will be 25. Pedri will be 23. Lamine Yamal, who became the youngest player to score at a European Championship in 2024, will be just 18. This is a generation of superstars hitting their prime at exactly the same moment. The clashes that are coming, the quarterfinals, the semifinals, the moments in the knockout rounds, are not hypothetical. They are almost mathematically inevitable given how these teams have been built. And then there's the elephant in the room. Lionel Messi will be 38 years old at the 2026 World Cup. He won the tournament in 2022 in what many called the greatest World Cup final ever played. Whether he competes in 2026 or not, his presence or his absence will define a narrative that runs through the entire tournament. Football is entering a transition that happens once every 20 years. 2026 is where that transition becomes official. Here's the part that doesn't make the highlight reels, but explains everything. The economic scale of this tournament is staggering. FIFA has set the total prize money for the 2026 World Cup at $1 billion US. $1 billion. The 2022 World Cup paid out $440 million. That's more than double in just 4 years. The winner alone will receive $50 million. Even the teams that exit in the group stage, the ones who lose all 3 games and go home early, will each receive $20 million just for showing up. The United States alone is expected to generate over $5 billion in economic activity from the tournament. Hotels, flights, merchandise, broadcasting rights, sponsorships. Every major global brand, from Adidas to Coca-Cola to Visa, has committed record spending to be associated with this event. The 2026 World Cup will be the most commercially valuable sporting event in human history. But here's the part that surprises people. The money doesn't just go to the clubs or the federations. A significant portion flows into the development of football in countries that have never had access to proper infrastructure, training facilities, academies, coaching programs. The World Cup is, quietly, one of the most effective international development programs on the planet. The 2026 edition, with its expanded 48-team format, is designed to accelerate that process. More qualifying spots mean more investment into more footballing cultures around the world. The tournament is a business, but it's a business that has genuinely changed countries. Every great World Cup has a secret story, a subplot that nobody predicted but that everyone remembers. In 1998, it was France, a team that had never won anything, winning on home soil with Zinedine Zidane announcing himself to the world. In 2002, it was South Korea and Japan co-hosting, and South Korea reaching the semifinals in what remains the single greatest upset run in World Cup history. In 2010, it was Spain winning their first ever title. In 2014, it was Germany dismantling Brazil 7-1 in Brazil's own country, in front of their own people. In 2018, it was a teenage France side, built on African heritage, lifting the trophy. In 2022, it was Messi. It's always Messi. In 2026, the subplots are already forming. The United States co-hosting this tournament will be playing in front of the largest domestic football audience they have ever had. American football culture has been quietly building for years. MLS attendance records, the growth of youth football, the arrival of Messi himself at Inter Miami. If the U.S. men's national team makes a deep run in this tournament, it could permanently change the relationship between American culture and the sport. The stakes for U.S. soccer have never been higher. There's also the question of Africa. The 2026 format gives African nations 9 qualification spots, up from 5 in 2022. For the first time, multiple African teams have realistic paths to the knockout round simultaneously. A continent that has produced some of the most talented individuals in football history has never had one of its nations win the World Cup. 2026 may be the tournament where that changes. And then there's the wild card. There is always a wild card. A nation nobody expected. A player who came from nowhere. A moment that happens in the 89th minute that nobody saw coming. That's what the World Cup does. It produces the impossible. So let's do something concrete. Let me rank the 5 actual reasons why 2026 will be the greatest World Cup ever, from important to absolutely undeniable. Number 5, the money. A $1 billion prize fund changes the motivation of every team on that pitch. This isn't a small tournament anymore. Every single match carries financial consequences that dwarf anything football has seen before. Number 4, the 3-nation host format, never done before. Logistically, culturally, geographically, this experiment will either become the template for every future World Cup, or it will be the last of its kind. Either way, it's a historical moment. Number 3, the expansion to 48 teams. More stories, more nations, more upsets. The statistical probability of a shocking result has never been higher. The World Cup has always produced its best moments when the unexpected happens. 2026 has been structurally designed to make the unexpected more likely. Number 2, the generational peak. Mbappe, Haaland, Vinicius, Yamal, all at or approaching their best. This specific combination of talent will not exist again. 4 years from now, some of these players will be older, slower, or gone. 2026 is the window. It won't reopen. And number 1, the reason that sits above all the others is legacy. Every player in this tournament knows that winning the World Cup in 2026 means winning it in the United States, in front of the largest global football audience ever recorded at the highest prize level in history, against the deepest field ever assembled. The legacy on offer in 2026 is not comparable to any previous tournament. That changes everything. It changes how players prepare, how coaches plan, how teams approach every single match. So here's what you now know that most people don't. The 2026 World Cup is bigger in every dimension that matters. In teams, in nations, in money, in talent, and in historical significance. It is not an accident that this tournament is arriving now. It is the result of 30 years of football's global expansion finally reaching its peak moment. The question I want to leave you with is this: which storyline are you most excited about? Is it Mbappe finally getting his title? Is it the United States breaking into world football's elite on home soil? Is it an African nation winning the World Cup for the first time? Or is it something else entirely? A team nobody is talking about right now from a country most people couldn't point to on a map that makes it to the final and changes the sport forever? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. And if this video gave you something you didn't have before, a real understanding of why this tournament matters, then hit the like button. It takes 2 seconds and it means a lot. Subscribe if you want the full breakdown of every team, every group, every storyline, and every match as we get closer to kickoff. The World Cup starts soon, and you are now ready for it.